So here's the next generation sneaker that's going to make us market leader.
Wow. Did we hit our weight and spring target?
Absolutely. This shoe blows the competition out of the water.
Great. Sign the wrapper?
We're close. Just finalizing the royalties.
What about the carbon footprint?
It's non-marking, Kathy.
I'm talking climate impact, Kevin.
I know, but who cares?
25 billion pairs a year, globally, have a combined impact like France. And oh, by the way, focus groups tell us that our target market cares.
Kevin, you factored this in, right? How does this shoe compare to the competition? What do we need to optimize to be the low carbon leader?
Well, we can't manage what we don't measure. We'd have to calculate carbon at every step in the value chain, from raw material mining to end of use. It's like cost accounting.
Seriously? Who's going to go to all that trouble?
The future market leader.
SAP Product Carbon Footprint Analytics. Measure what matters.
Hello and welcome. You are a future market leader, and that's why you are here. You see, it's funny, the video, right? But it says something that is real important. There is something different happening. For many people, we are starting a new year. Some people believe that we are starting a new decade, and that's how they start a new cycle. For us here, we are starting a new journey, a journey that brings us together in a common objective. We have a shared value about save the planet. And what we're going to have here is an experience of almost 1 hour of sustainability talk. What we're going to do is to unpack the most important actions for business leaders and responsible organizations around many topics, from insights of sustainable development strategies. We'll be talking about ESG regulation and compliance, also Sustaintech, sustainability technology. We will analyze and we will review some of those technologies. And most importantly, we will deep dive in opportunities for increased efficiency and innovation with sustainable advantages. For us to go into this journey, I'm not alone. I have an incredible pleasure to have with me my guests. Here with me, I have SAP's Chief Sustainability Officer, Carlos Diaz. He joined us in this journey to share his experiences and what he has ahead of him. And what's interesting is that prior to taking over as a Chief Sustainability Officer, Carlos was the Chief Innovation Officer. And he believes that the ultimate innovation is actually taking action on sustainability. We also have with us Adriana Urso. She is an amazing person that I have the pleasure to work with. She is our sustainability advisor based in Europe, and she will share with us a lot of her experience on different researches and engagements that she has. And she has a special story for us today as well. Also, we have Stamatia Betsy. She is an innovation person, a person that is so committed to bring value to all of you that she went across the entire history of the world. After all, she's Greek, right? And she wanted to understand where we are coming from and where we are going. And this will actually enrich this conversation because there are so many fundamental things in the world that we need to understand and we need to have a discussion. So for the three of you, thank you so much for your time. Welcome. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Pedro Pereira. I'm also part of the Innovation Office and the Sustainability Office of SAP. And I'm a passionate person on topics that make a difference. And we are all here to make a difference together. So without any further ado, how are you, everybody?
Very well. Thank you very much, Pedro, for the introductions.
Amazing.
Very good. And why don't we start, Pedro, with a question for Adriana? I don't know what is that small story that she's going to share, but I will hand it over to her in a minute so she can share that story. But one thing that is happening one thing that is new is that a lot of new regulation is coming, and the European Union is announcing new things. I would like to understand all that. What is this European Green Deal? What is that new regulation? How affects the companies operating in Europe and outside of Europe? So that's the first question that I have for Adriana. So Adriana, your first story, and then the answer to my question.
Yeah, thank you, Carlos. So first of all, my story is related to the pandemic slash sustainability, let's say. Yeah, so maybe people are asking, why are you talking about sustainability? We are all hit in the pandemic. We are in the second wave. Things are going bad. Why are you talking about sustainability? And honestly, this is what I answered. This is what I asked myself as well. I just came back from maternity leave in October last year, and I was part of the innovation office. And while I was coming back, I understood that we were focusing on sustainability, and I was like, why we're not focusing on the pandemic? I gave birth during the pandemic. It was horrible. Definitely companies need help here. I live in Lombardy. We were very hard hit by the pandemic. So I could see that everything was going really bad, you know. And I was like, what's up with this sustainability? Okay, I know we are not doing that well, but why are we concentrating on this? And, you know, I came to learn that, you know, pandemic is temporary. It hit us and we were not expecting it, definitely, but it's temporary, yeah? We were working on solutions and sooner or later we're going to be out of this. On the contrary, climate change is here to stay for some time, and we're talking about tens of years, maybe more, I hope not. We know that is hitting us, so we should prepare it, yeah? It's not like a pandemic, so we have time to prepare it. We should have started yesterday or maybe even the day before, but now it's the time to act, and the sooner we do it, the better it is. And in now coming back to Carlos' questions, Europe is preparing as well to work on this for many years now. And there are a lot of things going on, and it will hit us as well sooner or later, and it will impact our lives more and more in a positive way, and we need to take action on this. So you heard Carlos asking about what's the European Green Deal. The European Green Deal is actually a plan. It's an action plan. What can we do to turn around climate change? Yeah, what can we do to make economies have a sustainable growth, to have a sustainable impact? As you can imagine, there are two sides here. Companies have an impact, but also our actions have an impact. We are persons, yeah, we consume things, we do stuff every day, so we are also part of this, not only the companies, but of course, one of the main contributors are companies, and we all work for companies, and we should really believe in this before really acting on it, yeah? So this is our plan. This is our action plan. It's very straightforward. It has three main points, yeah? We should ensure that no net emissions greenhouse gases by 2050. We should ensure that economic growth is not related to resource use. Yeah, and we should ensure that no one is left behind, no place is left behind. It should be just and fair for everyone.
Can I interrupt for a second, Adriana?
Sure.
So I understand that with this European Green Deal, Europe wants to be the first continent to be carbon neutral, and that's going to happen in 2050, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And the other thing you mentioned, the three objectives. One that I consider extremely important is decoupling the growth from resources usage. So we have to grow, but we have to grow in a way that does not consume more resources. Is my understanding correct?
Yeah, correct. It's correct.
Okay. Sorry for the interruption.
No worries. And yeah, you are perfectly right on that. We need to be careful how we use resources. Yeah, I've been studying economy, you know, and economy, it's about how to better use resources and how to use it in a sustainable way. More and more it's about that, yeah. So we should be careful about that. Sometimes I'm even thinking I'm drinking lots of water. Is that okay? Should I try to drink less? I don't know. These are questions that I ask myself every
We are
day.
all drinking water these days, and we need to drink water. For everybody watching us, water is actually good for us, isn't it?
It is, but sometimes it's like small things, like you're taking a shower. Yeah, just make sure that it doesn't last too long, you know.
So you walked us through what is the European Green Deal. What is people have heard about this new EU taxonomy, and taxonomy starts with the word tax. Is this a new tax? Hopefully not. Can you explain to us what is the EU taxonomy and how ultimately it affects our companies?
Yeah, so it's definitely not a new tax, fortunately. So EU taxonomy, it's basically a common language. Yeah, we need to speak all the same language as far as it regards what is sustainable and what are the sustainable economic activities. And this is fundamental for the European Green Deal. Yeah, it helps a lot by just getting the right and appropriate definitions of what is sustainable and what we should do. And it also creates security for the investors. Yeah, so we avoid greenwashing. We've been hearing about things like that. It ensures that companies are focusing on the right topics and that they are investing in the right things where this is the most needed. Yeah. So this is basically the EU taxonomy, and the European Commission is working on an IT tool. Yeah, I'm happy to hear about that, which will help us to navigate through this taxonomy. I imagine it will be so long and industry-based, definitely. And this tool will help us to navigate through it, and it will be available now at the beginning of 2021. Yeah, so it's soon coming out. Great news.
Okay, so we heard about the European Green Deal. We heard about the EU taxonomy that is coming in a few weeks. And now, is this just something nice to have? Is this compulsory? Is there any law behind it? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we have been talking about this and thinking about it for years. Yeah, so if it's mandatory, it's easier to implement it. So therefore, the Green Deal is supported by the European climate law, which has been approved last year on the 4th of March. And it brings a lot of laws to be, a lot of measures and a lot of things that need to be implemented by the governments. Yeah, so everybody has targets. The European Commission is going to review that every 5 years. It will update the targets. It will help the companies to and the governments to work on that. It will change the way we live and the way companies operate, because that's mandatory. Yeah, so companies need to comply with those new regulations in order to be able to operate in Europe. And of course, also the companies that work outside of Europe but want to do business with Europe will probably need to comply with that as well.
So that's
Yep.
their license to operate. Their license to operate in the European Union or with the European Union depends on their ability to comply with this new regulation, with this new climate law. And that could be good news for the environment, but that could be bad news for companies that have to make some investments. So is there any funding available for those companies? Has the European Union enabled lines of credits? Tell us about that.
Very good question, Carlos. So yeah, that's the European Union is investing a lot in this topic in the next few years. So for the next 6 years, there will be over 150 billion euros which will be directed to the most affected regions and the most affected industries. Of course, you can imagine there are regions which are counting a lot on coal, on oil, and there are a lot of people working in those industries. So these people need to be, retrained, moved maybe to in other areas. We need to invest in renewable energies. There are lots of things going on, and lots of things need to be adapted. We need to learn new things. We need to adapt the industries. We need to innovate. Of course, we need the science to be backing us. We need innovations in this area as well.
Perfect.
Well,
So, Pedro, 4 things
that,
we heard from. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Now, I was just gonna mention just to structure it, because we've heard a lot from Adriana. We heard about the European Green Deal. We heard about the EU taxonomy. We heard about the European climate law, and finally, about the EU sustainability funds. This is all the new things that are happening, and on top of everything that has been happening during the last few quarters or years around sustainability. But over to you, Pedro.
Well, Carlos, that actually brings a question that I have myself to you specifically, because you've been through a change yourself. You are leading a new organization, a very large company, which is SAP. You are now decided to move from a chief innovation officer to a chief sustainability officer. Before anything, can we clarify once and for all, what is a chief sustainability officer today? And what a sustainability office should be doing? We just heard several things about regulation, taxonomy. Sounds that business could be in trouble. Is that why you have this new role? Can you give us, lights about what's coming ahead for you?
Well, first, difficult question, but easy to answer. Look, we all need people to hold our hand and to help us understanding complex issues. And climate change and sustainability is a complex issue because there are things that we cannot see with our bare eye. We cannot see CO2 concentration in the atmosphere with the bare eye. We have to rely on science to tell us where we are. We cannot see ocean acidification with our bare eye. We have to trust science to tell us where we are. So there are a lot of things that are not intuitively easy to understand. So we need someone to hold our hand, to explain us what is happening and what are the implications for good and for bad. In my case, it was my sister Esther, the one that held my hand and helped me understand the biodiversity challenges and the climate change challenges. But when we are meeting customers at SAP, and I was meeting customers with my innovation hat, I was realizing that they were extremely interested in understanding the sustainability topics and how can they advance in this arena. And we were lucky enough to have a new CEO at SAP that puts sustainability and the circular economy at the heart of our strategy. We were lucky enough also to have a president in EMEA South that puts a lot of focus on sustainability, and we have created the sustainability office. So that was my personal journey from my sister. Ended up with my CEO, my president, but more importantly, hearing what our customers were looking for.
Wonderful. So, Carlos, I understand that you have, as part of SAP, a mandate, a framework on climate action challenges and how they impact the business. Are you ready to present that to us? Can you give us just an overview so that our audience understand what exactly we are talking about? What are the key pillars and points that we are going to cover on that? Are you able to give that presentation to us now?
Yeah, well, yeah. Let me share some dimension of it, and at some point I'm going to also ask Stamatia to help me a little bit, but. Look, there are many ways to approach the sustainability. And one way that at SAP we approach it is, are we going to understand sustainability as inside our corporation? So are we going to be exemplar in what we do to fight against climate change, to reduce our CO2 footprint, our water consumption, and all the other metrics that are essential to make this world more sustainable? And the answer to this first question is absolutely yes. We need to be an example. We need to follow the exemplar route to fight climate change. But that's not enough. We also have to be an enabler. And that's important for everyone, but more important for customers like us that produce Sustaintech, sustainable technology for sustainability. Okay. And this is exactly what you are projecting now is exactly the kind of challenges that our customers have. They have market risks, they have regulatory risks, and we have talked about those investor risks. Those investors really want to understand not only the financial reporting, but also the NFR, the non-financial reporting, which are your climate KPIs, how you're impacting the world. And finally, your reputation. You started this this session, and thank you, by the way, Pedro, for doing that, with a video in which a guy tries to launch a new kind of shoes without considering the climate impact. So that has an impact on reputation, on your reputation, and ultimately on in your market, in your consumers. So those are the challenges. And once our customers understand their challenges, they go back and say, okay, how do I start measure all this? This, if you can show the next slide, what when we meet them, the main challenge that they have is they don't have a source of this information. They normally have a great source of financial information, but they do not have non-financial information, and mostly so regarding sustainability. They don't know how their products are polluting downstream and upstream. So let me give you an example. Think about how you use Apple products, okay? And when you use Apple products, you buy an iPad. And that iPad has used raw materials, then it has a production line, then it comes and it's transported all the way to you, and then you use it with energy that may or not may be green energy, and finally you dispose that product. If it's recycled or not recycled, that's a different story, okay? But there's all that kind of information that is in the middle, and it's an unknown for you because it's beyond financials. That's the CO2 footprint of that entire journey, as an example, is an unknown for you. Just going back to the Apple example, manufacturing your iPad produces 76% of the total CO2 footprint of that iPad. But then how you use that iPad, what kind of energy you use to use that iPad, that's 14%. The transportation to that iPad, if it arrived through a courier or you went to the shop, doesn't matter, is 5%. Okay. And then the material recovery is another 1%, and the scope 1 and 2 emissions, we will explain that later, that's another 2%. So it is very complex. If you can go back to the slides, we see that they are a little bit blind. So we were thinking about this at SAP, and we thought, how can we help our customers if basically all their information about how they procure, how they produce, and how they distribute and reach out to their customers are in SAP systems. More than 75% of the world's transactions are on SAP systems. How can we help them extracting that information from their current systems and automatically take a look at that footprint? And that's the next slide. That's what we did with the program Climate 21. Climate 21 is an umbrella that has different products underneath. But one of those incredible products, if you go to the next slide, is the carbon footprint analytics that help us understanding scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions.
Sorry, Carlos, can I ask something here? Maybe a short clarification. Why do we call it Climate 21? I mean, 21, we are in 2021. Is that about it, or?
It's the 21st century. Okay,
oh, great.
It's our challenge for the century. So next year, it will still be relevant. Okay.
This is one of those clarifications that are so tricky. So if you didn't know, Climate 21 is not about the year 21. It's about the century. That's very, very simple, but very important. Thank you so much. Great question, Adriana.
I thought it would have been a little bit weird to start talking about it last year as we did. Very well. So I thought what you were going to ask, Adriana, is what is scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3? And I'm going to clarify that in a minute. It can be interesting for the audience. I know that you guys can Google this and it will be very easy, but one of our objectives here is to facilitate that investigation process. So we're going to digest this information and bring it to you as easy as possible. So look, it's very easy. Scope 1 emissions are the emissions that any company is creating out of their own assets because of the utilization of their own assets. Scope 2 emissions is the energy that you have to purchase to make your assets work. And scope 3 emissions, that's the most difficult one, is everything that happens before and after you procure your materials and you produce your products, okay? So what we have tried to do is gather information about scope 1, 2, and 3 and help you navigate that complexity, because automatically we extract the information from your SAP systems and also non-SAP systems, and we bring you the solution. And that's the next and final slide. To have a view per product, what kind of product you are producing and what are your scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 direct and indirect emissions. So to wrap it up, there's a lot of new regulations, but our customers have 3 different approaches to this. Approach number 1, they have to measure, so they have to be compliant. Compliance is approach number 1. Number 2 is efficiency. They have to be more efficient in their operations while approaching the sustainability reality. And approach number 3 is they have to use innovation to differentiate with sustainability. But before we go into those dimensions, I would like Stamatia to help us a little bit in understanding what are those ESG regulations that they have to comply with, what ESG stands for. Can you give us a little bit of light around this?
Of course. Thank you, Carlos. Can you hear me well?
Very well.
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
So actually, if sustainability is an effort of a company to do better, let's say, those ESG criteria are the 3 pillars that help the company to be efficient, to generate value, and take those strategies that are relevant for the company and for the environment. Those 3 pillars actually is the E, S, and G. E stands for environmental, and it has to do with everything that has to do with the environment, the pollution, the energy, the waste. S stands for social, everything that has to do with the business relationships with the employees, the health and safety with the employees, for example, the suppliers. If the company, let's say, donates a percentage of their profits for the community, and if helps the workers to volunteer to work for the community. And the G stands for the governance, and that means accurate and transparent accounting methods, if the company follows some illegal partners or not, and things that have to do with the governance. ESG criteria actually have already, let's say, started to position from the 60s, from the 1960s, if you might be wondering why, but in that decade, actually, the socially responsible investors excluded from excluded stock and entire industries because of the business activities. For example, let's say a tobacco production. But nowadays, we have seen some other examples. We have seen, for example, let's say companies that are doing very well in the stock market and attracted a lot of investors actually to have a lot of losses, such as the oil splitting peak in 2010 and the Volkswagen emission scandal. So even those companies were very well in the stock market, and a lot of people invested. Actually, a lot of billions of dollars were lost.
So,
this,
so to understand something, Samati, and sorry for the interruption. So you told us that ESG reporting, which is non-financial reporting, has three main pillars: environment, social, and governance.
yes,
And investors are more and more not only looking at how you are doing with your typical financial figures, but you have to comply with all these new regulations, all these new standards. And they get to know about those ESG results through ESG rating agencies, correct? So
yes,
there are agencies that gather information about companies, and they make the effort of putting all those numbers together, cracking all the numbers, and give you an ESG rating for environment, for sustainability, for social, and for governance. Is that correct?
correct. And all these metrics are a lot, and according to different industries, according to different countries, they vary.
Okay. And sorry again for the interaction, because I wanted to ask Stamatia a little bit about this, because this is one of the things that our customers are struggling with. So there is a lot of that information that is public, and these ESG rating agencies have available, but normally only in the major markets, normally only for the major companies, and normally only for whatever they can find in public web pages. So companies themselves have to look inside what they do and understand what are the KPIs. And they get a little bit lost there. And that's where we come up and try to help with the Climate 21 approach. Sorry for the interruption, but it was perfect explanation to continue the reasoning. Go on, Samatia.
Okay, actually, there's nothing more to say actually about that, so you can continue on.
Very well.
On that
Thank
sense,
you.
Carlos, just grabbing here, we have an audience watching us. Thank you so much for all of you watching us right now. Thank you for the comments you're bringing together. I'm going to show one here. There is a question from our friend Dini Peter. Please send the recording. So yes, every week we will have the Green Live, which is a format where we are going to openly discuss topics about sustainability, and that's going to be recorded and available for all of you. So yes, Dini, don't worry. This is something we will provide for sure. Thank you so much for your comments. And for all of you out there, please share your comments. Every time you hear something that you're not familiar with, there is no wrong on that. We are here to serve you. We are here to answer your questions. And that's why we are putting all of this together. And also, I recommend you to share this live with your colleagues. Taking action requires an effort, and that effort starts with you. That responsibility, that is a common responsibility, it starts with each one of us. So by sharing this live session, you will be actually helping someone to understand how they can play a role in the overall scheme of things. So Carlos, what you have to tell us to take it to the next level now?
Okay, so I think we talked enough about regulations, how important it is to comply with those regulations for companies to continue to operate. Now, we also understood that with the Climate 21 approach, you can gather that information and understand, for example, what is the CO2 footprint of your products. But is that enough? No. Once you understand the size of the challenge, the size of the opportunity, you need to take action on that. And that's the second approach that many of our customers do. And by the way, these three steps, they sometimes take it at the same time. And that second step is efficiency. Now that I understand what is my carbon footprint, my water usage, my resource allocation, my transportation impact, et cetera, how do I improve it? What is the efficiency? How my operations can improve? So we help our customers discover how to save money, economizing resources, and improving processes. That's step number 2, which is essential, of course, to make lemonade out of those lemons. Okay, so yes, you're starting to measure something that you didn't measure in the past, but you find a lot of improvement opportunities when you really understand how many of those resources and how you use those resources. And that's step number 2. And now, most important, step number 3 is innovation. How do you use this Sustaintech to differentiate yourself through sustainability? We call this the sustainability advantage. And our customers are telling us, okay, is my audience, are my customers really interested in green products and services? If so, who they are, where they are, and how can I capitalize on that? Now, a greener product can be achieved by improving the margins, the outcomes, or just finding those customers that are willing to pay a premium for that green product, or willing to still keep you in business if you do those green products. Now, what we are trying to help them is understanding the plethora of different solutions that they can put together. Let me give you an example. The banking industry. What if they double down on green financing? What about gamifying the experience that their customers are going through when they access their bank account? If you have a bank account, you have the perfect CO2 footprint of a person, because you know everything, where the energy is being bought, how he is traveling, what kind of activities, how much he's buying, everything, absolutely everything is reflected in your bank account. So banks have the opportunities to inform about the CO2 footprint of every and each individual, and also gamify that experience. This is your carbon footprint last month. This is this month. This is a challenge that we set. This is how you are compared to your neighborhood. This is how you're compared to your nationals. So there are so many ways in which different industries can really tackle the data that they have and make a difference, a sustainable difference to their investors. Is this more or less clear, Pedro?
Absolutely, Carlos. And I believe that the discussions we are having here today, they have a structure, right? So if I could also summarize from my side, the structure that we have in this discussion here. Basically, number 1, sustainability is a transformative idea that requires focusing beyond profit. Sustainability can protect your business from consumer and activist backlashes. Also, sustainability fosters a lean operational style that saves money by cutting waste. Sustainability can help you uncover hidden business opportunities. And businesses are scrutinized more closely in today's age of accountability, going back to what Adriana was explaining to all of us. So right now, businesses increasingly takes place in a world of vocal and powerful stakeholders who want a voice in how you run your company and how responsible it is. And finally, sustainability requires honest self-awareness of where your company is, where it needs to go, and whether it's getting there financially, environmentally, and socially. That's in a nutshell the conversation we had here today. Would that be a fair summary for you, Carlos, Samatia, and Adriana?
Definitely.
Of course.
Thank you, Pedro.
So one thing that I would like to leave with our audience before they come back to us next week is where they can get more information about this decade of action. So I have here some resources that I would like to share with all of you. So let me share my screen. The number 1 is a website that we have put together called SAP Cares. It's a landing page that will help you with resources on this countdown for the next chapter of your business. As you go through this, we will have more content, a white paper that's full of information on how you as a business can take action. We have an inspiration talk by Mark Noya that presented on this decade of action. We also can help you with a masterclass that I'm going to show in a second. What happened in the first edition of our masterclass on sustainable tech. And this is something that is coming up soon, the second edition, and you don't want to miss that. In this website, you will also find industry-specific content. We've been covering energy, food transparency, eco-fashion, and everything you need to know about energy transition, sustainable manufacturing, and also sustainable workplaces. And of course, all of this is because we are here to serve, and therefore you can use this platform of conversation to schedule a workshop with our sustainability advisors, with our change agents to make it happen. So this is one resource that I will leave in the comments of this live session for you, so if you want to have that access later on. Another thing that we are here to recommend to you as well is a brand new free open course on the SAP platform called Open SAP. So if you are really willing to go deep dive and understand some of those topics apart from those live sessions that we're bringing together for you, you can go to the Open SAP portal. It's just open.sap.com. And one of the current courses that are going to be available for you is the Business Success with Climate Action. I have joined myself. I'm part of this journey, and I'm pretty much sure that if you go through it, you will figure out different ways from different experts we have in the company to help you navigate such challenging times ahead of us. So now I go back to all of us here to get a summary of what we discussed. Carlos, your last words for the audience.
No, I was gonna say the great materials in that open SAP course, because if you're an SAP user or SAP customers, you have a very straightforward way to use Climate 21 programs, and if not, you also have a great opportunity to learn new things about sustainability. My last words is first thanking Adriana and Stamatia for the insights on ESG regulation in the case of Stamatia and the European Union approach, the Green Deal and new funding, Adriana. And Pedro for putting together this way to help our customers understand the three different approaches of compliance, efficiency, and innovation to sustainability.
Thank you so much, Carlos. Stamatia, Adriana?
Thank you all for the opportunity, and we always learn from each other, I guess. Very interesting. Thank you.
That's true. Thank you. Thank you, Pedro, Carlos, Adriana, everyone.
So just before also we go, what's going to be next? This is going to happen next week as well. Every Wednesday, 12 CET, we'll have this conversation with our audience. So what are you researching that could be interesting for next week? Give me a sneak peek of what is it in your mind that you want to explore over the next 7 days.
Very well. So let me give you a couple of examples. Hope they are insightful. First, we are putting together something that is called a world of 3 zeros. Zero energy poverty, zero waste production, and zero misconnection with your customers. So that's something that we are investigating and presenting to some of our customers already. Another thing that we are working on, it's called the 5-step strategy, to help our customers explain their customers what can they do in the day-to-day to fight climate change with very easy 5 different dimensions, easy to articulate into your day-to-day. So a world of 3 zeros and a 5-step strategy are subjects that we're working on.
Amazing, Carlos. Thank you so much. So everyone, the sustainability journey has already begun, right? Earth is calling for immediate action to avoid a climate catastrophe. This is just one small contribution we are making, but we need your help. We need your help to understand what are your questions? What do you want us to explore for you? As I said many times, we are here to serve. And for us to serve you better, we want to hear from you. We want to have an inside of your brain and get to know what is the focus for our future lives. So keep sharing this, keep connecting with us. We are more than happy to have that relationship carried on and going forward. Thank you so much for your time. And before you go, I want to show you a bit of a glimpse of how our masterclass on sustainable tech happened in December. And coming up, we'll have the second edition. You don't want to miss that. I will leave you with the teaser of our masterclass.
We need to make it happen. We have to be pragmatic.
How we take care of the people, how we take care of the prosperity, and how we take care of our planet.
We challenge what is and we inspire what could be.
To a real prosumer-centric model.
We have to get involved. You have to get involved.
Bartering and reusing and recycling is a whole new experience.
It is not just about the scale and the financials and the feasibility.
How can we bring together partners, whether they're in governments, whether they're local institutions?
Delightful madness. Also, we would like to do it in a sustainable way.
Talk is really cheap and action is the new currency.
So we do need many more companies to set more ambitious goals, as Vivek was also talking about.
At the end of the day, if you can mobilize your people, if you can create the right awareness, then you start to make an impact.
Sustainable tech is within reach. You have the abilities and the capabilities to make it work.
We are now in the decade of actions,
such that every single product becomes an asset to the brand.
It's something that requires a process, a vision, and then a cycle to put this in place.
You can't have a circular economy unless you have a connected economy.
It's a whole new way of looking at things.
It's really a shift from setting goals according to what is possible to setting goals instead according to what is really necessary.
And that the new decade of action that starts today.
So we need massive actions now, and companies need to be a lead in the conversation.